Pistons. The Cavs won their first road game of the playoffs in Game 5. They have not lost at home this entire postseason. Keep that in mind. And if they can get similar production out of James Harden, maybe it'll be a lot easier for Cleveland. However, it has been a struggle for Harden. He has been held to fewer than 20 points in 4 of his last 5 Game 6s. Harden also has had 2 different games where he went 0 for 6 from three-point range over that span as well. Look, it has been very well documented how sometimes James Harden can disappear in Game 6 and Game 7 in the playoffs, and that has kind of been his legacy. So what can James Harden, Stephen A., prove tonight in a critical Game 6?
Well, listen, he can prove that all the things that have been written about him in games of this nature, that was the past, and this is a different day, and this is a different James Harden. We need to understand, Jay and RC, this is the game right here. I'm talking about Game 6 and a potential Game 7. This is it. What we saw from Harden did well last game, had 30 points. Most of it came from free throws. I'm not judging that. The fact of the matter is make yourself effective, be aggressive, and do what you have to do. Sometimes you ain't going to be accurate from the field. You ain't going to be that efficient from the field. You're going to have off nights. You're entitled, but you got to go for it. We got to remember that when we malign in any way James Harden, it wasn't because of bad performance. It was because of no-show performances. Last year in Game 7, this brother took 9 shots. This is James Harden. We're talking about the absence of activity, the absence of aggression, which is so inexplicable because this is a guy that has the ball in his hands the vast majority of the time, that can get his shot off, that is a multi-time scoring champion and a former league MVP and one of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen in the game of basketball, showing up in a Game 6 or 7, and you got an APB out for him because he's nowhere to be found, even though reportedly he was in uniform and on the basketball court. It happened against San Antonio in the playoffs when he was in Houston. It happened against Golden State when he was in Houston. It happened against Boston when he was in Philadelphia. It's happened with him it was against Denver when he was with the Clippers. List goes on and on. You're looking at him, and it's very, very anemic. And so it's usually the Game 6 or the Game 7 that this happens. And that's why I said tonight is so important, because we've all been waiting. We've seen him perform well Games 1, 2 through 4 or 5. It's the Game 6 and 7s that he's been an unmitigated nightmare. And that we've got to find out whether or not he's going to be that dude. I saw what he did in Game 5. I was happy he did it. What you going to do in Game 6? You back in Cleveland. You got an opportunity to close out the number 1 seed in the East on your home court after beating them on the road. And you got Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen, and Max Strus, who showed up the other night with 6 threes to help you out. What are you going to do? We shall see.
Right.
Beautiful Max Strus.
Yeah. I think the big thing for James Harden is I don't believe it changes his legacy at all if he plays well in this Game 6. I believe people have made their mind up about who James Harden is. If this team doesn't win this game and then go on to the next playoff series and he play well and he shows up in Game 6 and in Game 7, you don't have this 17-year stretch of a career where you're consistently in the playoffs and you don't win any titles, and there's games like the 2020 game for the Rockets where he only scores 12 or you only score 7 like you did last year. When those things happen repeatedly, you don't get to erase that away in one game. You don't get to erase that away in one night. Let's say he does play well tonight and we go into a Game 7 because Detroit does win. What would we be saying when the next game comes around? Who is James Harden going to be in this game? Because our experience with you is that when the biggest moments arise, you shrink. You become the smallest James Harden that we've ever seen. And to me, it's not just about the production, right? It's about the effort. It's about the look. It's about the aggression. It's about the want to. It's about the will. It's about the competitiveness. And you know this as well as anybody, Jay. For you guys, there's so much focus on the dude that has the ball in his hands. You got to tell me that I can count on you and I can believe in you. What's on the line for him tonight is to prove that in a new place to a new group of individuals, I can be that person.
I agree with you, RC. My answer to this question was, what's at stake tonight? Nothing but upside.
Yes.
Stephen A. used words, his player performance has been very, very anemic. Damn. Game 6s and 7 have been unmitigated nightmares. Damn, that's the bar. That's the floor. So if we already know that's the case, if you're James Harden, if you're coming into this, you're like, okay, if I don't play well, y'all just going to keep saying the same old things y'all been saying. But if I play well, then I know I play well, but the goalposts are always going to move. So at some point, if you're a player, you have to understand that, and I kind of made this post the other day, we value greatness by championships. Now, I know that's our standard, right? When we think about the greatest of all times. James Harden is one of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen. I think the biggest thing for people to see more consistency with James Harden is all the attributes and intangibles you just made mention of. That when the games make that effort, that body language, that's the kind of stuff that you want to see him engaged in the game with. But as it relates to me, RC, like, it ain't nothing but upside for him.
Okay.
Because people are going to say the things they're always going to say.
Hold on. Stephen A., hold on. I feel like everyone's being a little negative, okay?
What do you mean?
I feel like it's negative.
It's positive.
No, I feel like it's all got a negative tone. So you mean to tell me all three of you kind of are saying similar things, right? Like you think that both of you think the narrative's not going to change. Stephen A. says that it potentially maybe.
I said there's only upside.
Maybe. So if this guy goes out and balls in game 6, even in a loss, balls in game 7, let's say, I don't care if they win or lose, but he balls out in both of these games and it's the game is on his back. We can't sit up here and say like, okay, James Harden's in the right place at the right time.
We can't.
That's where I
think you will.
That's where I was going.
Okay.
That's where I was going.
Because it sounded to me a lot like the mind's already made in everyone's head. Go ahead.
But no. Here's what it is. Jay is right in terms of the upside. But RC, I couldn't disagree with you more. You know, if James Harden goes on a run, and let's say he plays on an elite level in game 6, game 7, they go to the conference finals, he does the same thing, he helps them get to the NBA finals, and he performs at an elite level, he is going to be looked at differently. Because how he's looked at right now, this is James Harden we're talking about here. This is a career like 24 per game score. This brother is just lethal. He's elite at his best. He put up 30, he averaged 30 for seasons in the NBA, okay? We know what he did all of those years in Houston. And then he got to game 6s. In the last 5 game 6s, James Harden's record is 1-4. He's averaged 16.8 points on 37% shooting and 23% from three-point range. This is James Harden. So we're talking about now. You understand what I'm saying? Game 7s, okay? His last 5 game 7s. His record is 2-3. He's averaged 14.6 points on 28% shooting from the field and 17% shooting from three-point range. Let me tell you something. It's one thing to have those numbers. It's another thing to exercise the eye test and to see what you're seeing. Literally watching a game and not knowing if James Harden is in it because he's been that quiet, that anemic, that impotent, that non-aggressive, and you look at him and say, what the hell is going on? Where is the guy? Damn, he's been in the game. Damn, he's played 30, 35 minutes. Damn, that he's attempted that many shots. What is he doing? This is what you have asked him for. If this brother performs in these games, these quality games, the game 6 or 7s, that changes the narrative about him.
No.
But he has to do it.
We're talking about tonight. I said in my answer, if he plays well tonight, even if it goes to a game 7, and then now you go to the series against the Knicks and he shows up, you can only change this perception. He can only change his legacy by consistency in the biggest moment. One night is not going to make you talk about James Harden differently, you talk about James Harden differently, or the world believe in him in this moment.
About that.
He has to prove it in multiple game 6s to me, and he has to find a way, along with Donovan Mitchell and other pieces on the team that are good, to compete for a championship. That's why they traded for him.
How about this, RC?
They did not trade for him for just to be here in game 6 against Detroit.
How about this, RC?